SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.
Have you been seriously injured? Mama Justice is here for you. Our medical team partners with top-notch doctors, surgeons, therapists, and urologists, ensuring a comprehensive recovery journey. If you've been injured, call Mama Justice today. We're here for you.
Show was previously recorded.
And always on the SuperTalk app.
Check one. Where's all my volume?
No, it's not 1 o'clock yet, but this afternoon at 1 o'clock, you can catch In a Mississippi Minute with Steve Azar. You can do that tomorrow as well, Thursdays and Fridays every week right here on SuperTalk Mississippi. The man that never ages, the man with the golden voice, Steve Azar, my pal, joins us right
you must
now.
Be talking to somebody else.
Not at all. Not at all. I want to give you a compliment first. Has nothing to do with your music.
All right, go ahead.
Azar, I'm a bit of a logo snob. I like small logos on golf shirts and on hats. And your Stickman guitar logo that is inside the star on your guitar strap is as cool a logo as I've ever seen.
That's so funny. You know what? My doctor brother, the real famous person in the Azar family, Dr. Freddie Azar in Memphis, when I was 14 years old, he was just going to Notre Dame. I said, I need a logo. And he drew my initials, S.A., sort of architecturally. I just watched him do it. He was a really great drawer, painter and all that. Anyway, and then he started building this thing around it and built the guitar, and he put the star around it. He looked at it, the star's a little crooked. I said, I love it. And that was it. So that was the beginning, and I've stuck with it forever. And, you can get a little dumb with that, though. Like Nike at least put the word Nike on their thing for a while until you knew the swoosh. Mm-hmm. I was always about leaving my name off everything and just doing that. And I think people were probably like, what is that? Who is that? So
That's really cool. What does it mean? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And Nike's gone to their retro logo on a bunch of stuff where they've put Nike or Nike Air on it over time. So
thus the Nike brand and the Steve Azar brand. There you go.
Well, similarities, I'm sure. Steve Azar, my guest, and yesterday we talked a lot about Dolly Parton. On Tuesday, we lost an icon, and Jade and I were grabbing some lunch, and she got a text message from one of her friends, and I saw on X about the same time the news was coming out, roughly 1 o'clock on Tuesday afternoon, that Dolly Parton had passed away. And it felt like the reaction was universal. Everybody was sad. And I posted this. I don't know why, other than I just felt like I needed to because everybody else was. Dolly felt like somebody that should have lived forever. An absolute giant that was... I hesitate to use the word universally, but I think she was universally loved. Can't find anybody to say anything bad about her. Anybody.
No, you can't. And listen, she was a pioneer. Did a little tweet the other day, and I was trying to figure out what to say. Mm-hmm. And because you'd have to write a book. There's nobody she crossed. I mean, if she did, we sure didn't know about it. She was so genuine and wonderful. When I met her for the first time, she was not in a hurry to rush away, and we probably spent 10, 15 minutes talking. And it's always surreal as an artist. You meet these icons along the way. Charlie Pride, another example. My mom used to talk about him playing, come in his baseball uniform in the grocery store in Clarksdale all the time. And 25 years later, me and Charlie are doing the Opry and doing it again. And he'd always come up, talk about mom, talk about Clarksdale. I mean, you get these moments in your life as an artist that are very surreal and almost like not real at all. But Dolly was so wonderful. She just didn't get involved in controversies or choosing sides. You're seeing that a lot now with artists and athletes and so much going on, and everybody's got an opinion now, and they can, it's like the news is everybody, or more views than news, but she just never, you just didn't know what side she was on because she was on everybody's side, and I think that's the reason there's no one you can find that just didn't really respect her.
Hey, I don't know if you know this, but in the music industry, the big star world, it appears sometimes as if there are people that have ego. I don't know if you've ever encountered that along the way, people that have ego who are big stars. Dolly struck me as somebody who was so comfortable in her own skin that her ego was almost non-existent. And to me, the evidence of that is the number of people that she collaborated with who were big stars. And she didn't ever seem worried about, it was about just making good music and good content. And maybe because she was such a big star, it would never be eclipsed. I don't know. But that struck me as really, really cool when you look at the number of people that she performed with or collaborated with through the years.
Well, first of all, when you start a career like she did, and she was given this incredible God-given gift, but she was also extremely business savvy. But back up for a second. The song she wrote, Jolene, I Will Always Love You. I mean, I will always love you. I mean, it's just crazy. When she said she heard Whitney Houston sing it, she said she didn't know even how to do it anymore. Like it was like she had never witnessed anything like that, and just a great song. So she was known as a great songwriter. And when she had much, even working 9 to 5, she wrote all that stuff. And so it was just incredible, the songs she wrote and how the staying power. And also I remember reading one time that she was only making $60,000 a year when she was already a star, but she was on a show, on one of the shows, I don't know, it was Porter's show or whatever, but she was the guy that was paying him. She said, she was grateful. But she also knew that the show was getting renewed and it was doing better and better, and she was not getting a raise. So at some point that she finally got the courage to ask for her own thing and do her own thing. And so those were decisions I think she made in her life that she realized she stood up for herself. Women in music back then, especially back then, there wasn't a lot. There was, the men sort of ruled the airways for a long time. And obviously for her to come in and do what she did. But it is interesting that you think about it. She's also very private. She's married 60 years.
Yeah.
That's a long time in our business, so it just sort of defined a lot. But she was very humble. I still think the best ones are the most humble. I haven't run across really anybody in our business that hadn't been crazy successful, from the biggest songwriters, the biggest artists and everything, that aren't so approachable. And I think they're so big because they're just down to earth, and they're grateful and they're humble. And they also know how hard it took to get there. And how hard it is to stay there. And most of musicians like me are on a roller coaster ride. You're on this thing, and then eventually you get used to it, and it's okay. But with her, she was, on a planet by herself.
You mentioned
she's a superstar, man, superstar.
Steve, you mentioned just a second ago probably her two most recognizable songs, I Will Always Love You and Jolene. You are a writer. I don't even, you might classify yourself as a writer first and an artist / performer second. I don't know. That doesn't matter. But as someone who has gone through the writing process, I don't know if sometimes you just get in a groove. But the fact that she wrote those two songs, I Will Always Love You, which was a number one that she had and then became a number one again with Whitney Houston, and Jolene, which is one of the most recognizable and covered songs of all time, she wrote those in the same night.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I can't remember that was the case, but you're bringing back deja vu. Yeah, and you think about that. That's insane. It's just insane. Like, come on, man. Those are iconic songs, and usually you get one in like every, if you're a really great songwriter and prolific and all that, you get one like every 7-8 years of your life. Like great songs. Like I'm talking about that. They keep getting re-recorded, and every time they keep getting re-recorded, they go number one in whatever genre it is. So that's the difficult part. But I feel like for me personally, I love to write. I've always written. I stayed grounded my whole life. And how I got out of the room was write a song, and I knew my mom, if I wrote a song, that she'd let me out, for the weekend. That was part of the deal. She even grounded me at 22. I swear to God. And you know who I was with? I was with Mike Patera, and from in Oxford, we all know Mike and Latours. And they didn't believe. They called the police. There was an APB out. There was all sorts of stuff. And I said, "Oh my God, we were playing Trivial Pursuit." So I wrote the song. And I said, you can't ground me at 22. I think that's pushing it, But But as a songwriter, I love
and Mom
to
said, "You better hide and watch."
Yeah. I mean, come on. But I love to write. But it's getting to play the songs for the people that you write. That's when you have that emotional connection that I wish I could describe it, and I wish I could get tired of it, because I love it like I did my first time on stage. I still love it, and I don't ever want to stop. So I'm hoping that God will give me the strength and the voice and everything else that allow me to do that. But you get back to Dolly, just her impact. But truly, I'm sitting here trying to figure out where you rate her. Well, there's Elvis, and then there, as a female, who do you rate where Elvis was? And how can you not put Dolly somewhere up there? I know Elvis is the king, and we all know that. But man, we're so respected, so incredible. What a career! What a career! And she's also in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And tried to say no, told the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame board, no, I don't think I've earned this. And they said, yes, you have. And then felt compelled to go do a rock and roll album.
Yeah.
It was good. It was
with
good.
McCartney and everybody. I loved it.
It's incredible. And that story where she told Elvis and Colonel Parker, no, Elvis wanted to record I Will Always Love You, and she said, I'm not splitting the production rights on it, and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
Steve Azar, you can catch him on a Mississippi Minute this afternoon, tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock. Steve, always good to catch up. Thanks so much for your time this morning. Be safe, brother.
You too. Bye-bye.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by...
From the
Mornings with Richard Cross. Thanks for joining us. Mornings is presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. When it comes to money, trust isn't automatic, it's earned. That's why Community Bank does things the old-fashioned way. When you come to us, we take the time to listen to you and discuss any questions you have. Whether you're saving, spending, or planning ahead, you'll find bankers who know the community because they're part of it. Community Bank, banking designed with you in mind. Visit us in person or online at communitybank.net. Glad to welcome in Senator Lane Taylor. He represents District 18. I've joked with people in the past, Lane, that if you win a Heisman Trophy, you are forever referred to going forward as Heisman Trophy winning, fill in the blank. Like that for you? Does that still feel a little odd?
Hey, I answer to just about anything at home or at the Capitol. I'm on at the Capitol, I'm on a first name basis with just about everybody, and so even Lieutenant Governor, sometime from the well, he'll just say, "Hey, Lane," and I'm here, Governor. What you got? And so I answer just about anything, but definitely it has taken some time to get used to the senator part for sure.
I like it. Feels like the ego maybe has not gotten too big yet. It'll come. Just give it a little time, and it'll get there.
That's one thing that during the campaign and even after the election, I tried to remind people that if I ever get to the point to acting like some of these guys act, I want you to kind of tell me like, "Hey, tone it down. You're still just Lane." And so that's something that I believe in. I think it's important. In our district especially, people can see through that crap, and people know, a phony from a real, genuine person. So I try to stay real and be real with everybody, even my colleagues, from the top to the bottom. And it's worked for me, Richard, and I hope and pray that I can continue doing that.
Sometimes we all need a good, swift kick in the seat of the pants just to remind us. Our moms are good at that. Sometimes our wives are good at that, and just need to be reminded. All right, so this statewide listening and interacting tour began last week. We talked about the first. Hold on, I should back up and say, Senator Lane Taylor is part of this joint legislative redistricting committee. I think it's 8 stops across the state of Mississippi to talk about the redistricting process, to hear concerns, to answer questions, and primarily to listen. So we saw some of the quotes from that first event. It felt like that it was pretty heavy on the side of people who are against the idea of redistricting. What did you hear? What did you learn in that first meeting at ICC?
I think these hearings are very important, and whenever I got notified that I would be on the redistricting committee and learned of these hearings, I got excited, and not because there's going to be fireworks and it would be, but the main thing that excited me, Richard, and I think is so important, is because at the base of public service, it starts with listening, and it starts with, hearing the concerns of those that you serve. And so, with these hearings and with these listening sessions, I mean, we're doing exactly what I believe public service starts with, and that's listening to the constituents. So, when we came in, we went to that first initial meeting to get everything organized, and we learned of these hearings and where they would be and when they would be. It just felt natural for me, because that's what I try to do here in my home district. Even though I'll be traveling outside of the district, I still believe as an elected official that has been trusted to be placed on this redistricting committee that that's the base of it, is we have to go out and we have to listen. We have to understand, or try to understand, the concerns that these citizens are having, and use those throughout the process of the, potentially redistricting process.
What is the balancing? Because there's a lot of this in politics. What's the balancing act between someone speaking and either asking questions or talking about concerns that they have, and just full-on grandstanding?
That's a good question. I think one thing that we're lacking across any field that you want to talk about is when it comes to politics and when it comes to decision making, it's the community involvement. And people, they want to say, and they want to go to social media, and they want to have conversations in break rooms, but they don't want to take those concerns, and they don't want to take their thoughts and share them and get involved with a community, event like this redistricting hearing and offer up their suggestions. So where I'm going with that is, when you see these crowds of folks coming in, it does, in a sense, give you, the pride of, hey, these people, they believe in their community. They believe in what they've got going on. And so having them come forward and voice their opinion, I believe it's a good step in the right direction. Now, the second part of that question, if you are going to come and voice your opinions, and you are going to come and let the committee know how you're feeling and what you believe in, I think it has to be done in a way that, one, you're informed, one, that you're not there just to, grandstand and hoop and holler and jump up and down and get applause. This is not a concert. It's not a reaching out for social media response. This is you generally and genuinely coming and giving your thoughts, so that as a committee member, we can take them and consider them and use them going forward. So there is a balance. And Richard, I don't know if that answered the question, but it is certainly a balance that as a member, you go in and you have to decipher, hey, is this person up here just for the next, social media like or post or engagement, or is this person really genuinely coming up here and giving us their thoughts so that we can use them in a positive way?
Well, along those lines, this listening tour where you bounce around to a bunch of different places all over the state of Mississippi, is there a legitimate reason for doing this beyond being able to say that you did it? And I guess what I'm asking there is this whole listening tour performative in nature? We played a clip yesterday from the Lieutenant Governor back in June, and I was asking him specifically then about Derek Simmons being on the committee. And his response to that was, Richard, I want to win. And his point was, we're going to go through the redistricting process, but it's going to get challenged legally because everything gets challenged legally. And we need to be able to say we had Republicans, we had Democrats, we went through a process to get to the outcome. So I guess I'm asking, and forgive me if this is an inappropriate question, is the outcome already determined? And these listening sessions are just window dressing to be able to say, hey, we listened to everybody, and now we're going to do what we want to do?
Definitely for me, these listening sessions are helping. Well, we only had one. And I think as the committee as a whole, the ones that I've talked to, the members I've talked to, even the members that, I don't talk to on a regular basis, maybe on the House side, or some of the senators that I just don't talk to very often, nothing's decided. Nothing has been presented to us. I have not seen any kind of maps. I have not seen any kind of indication that anything has been decided. And when talking to Senator Kirby, we go through and I love talking to Senator Kirby because he's just got a lot of knowledge of the process and how things work. And it's never been, Lane, this is what we're going to do. This is the direction we're going. It's been, hey, we're going to take this step by step. We're going to start with the organizational meeting. Then we're going to lead into the hearings. And then we will come back together as a committee and take all these findings. Richard, I don't think it's set in stone that anything will be done. I don't think it's set in stone that we will see redistricting before we go back into session in January. But if we do, it has to be in a pretty fast manner because, we're sitting here in August and we've got legislative session 27 coming up, January, and then we've also got qualifying. So I think the work that the committee is doing is important. I think the work that the committee is doing is right on track with what the protocols and the laws are. The fact that we're going out and taking it step by step and we're listening, I think we're right on track with where we're supposed to be.
Lane, I'm sorry to interrupt. You got time to hang with me for a couple more minutes?
Yes, sir.
All right, we're going to take a timeout. We're back with Senator Lane Taylor. He represents District 18, and he's on this joint legislative redistricting committee and the listening tour. We're back with you right after this.
From the
Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. We are joined now by the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety and now announced candidate for the office of Attorney General, Commissioner Sean Tindell. Sean, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Richard. Great to see you as well.
You made this announcement last week in your hometown of Gulfport and then spent some time over the following days traveling across the state, visiting with a lot of people. Why did you decide that, one, this was the right time to make the announcement, but I suppose more importantly that you want to be the state's Attorney General?
Well, there's a couple of things there. One, obviously Lynn Fitch had announced a couple of weeks earlier that she would not be seeking re-election as Attorney General and that she would be, in fact, seeking election as Mississippi's next governor. So did not want to obviously get out in front of her until she made that decision public. And so we knew that once that was there that, we needed to let people know that that's the direction we were looking. And so we made the announcement last week, and of course started in Gulfport and came to Jackson, then Tupelo, and finished up in DeSoto County, and just got a great response. I mean, overwhelming response, being endorsed by most of the Republican DAs. A lot of sheriffs across the state have gotten on board, and the number just keeps growing. And I think it's indicative of the job that I've done in various roles, going all the way back from when I was a prosecutor to being a state senator, to being a judge, and now being the commissioner of public safety. So, and as far as why, I started my career as a prosecutor. I've had a passion for public safety from the beginning, and I think it's important that our next attorney general be somebody that's on the forefront of trying to make Mississippi safe, keep Mississippi safe, get these drug dealers and put them in jail, get these sexual predators and get them off our streets, and get any of these murderers and make sure that they're locked up for the rest of their lives. So public safety is going to be my number one priority there, and then moving into protecting the constitutional rights of our citizens, making sure that their freedoms are upheld, that their right to freedom of religion and First Amendment, freedom of speech and Second Amendment, all those things are so important, and we've made so many great strides having a Republican Attorney General that we want to keep that momentum moving forward in the Attorney General's office, and I think I have a very unique set of qualifications that makes me the best candidate for that particular position.
Do we count the post on X from the governor, Tate Reeves, who appointed you to Commissioner of Public Safety, as an endorsement? He said, law and order conservative Sean Tindell says public safety will continue to be his number one priority as Attorney General. He has done a superb job as our Commissioner of Public Safety. Does that count as an endorsement?
Well, I think he's certainly supportive of somebody that's led the charge for him in public safety across the state over the last 6 years. And so I'll let him answer as to whether or not that's an endorsement, but I think it's clear he's supportive of the endeavors that we're undertaking here.
There is an interesting dynamic in Mississippi based on the Constitution that allows statewide elected offices a pretty significant amount of power. And I think the office holders, really through most of our history, have been respectful of that power and have not been abusive of it. The Attorney General's office carries a significant amount of weight and a significant amount of power for the person who is in that seat to use it. Can you kind of describe what you view as the role of the Attorney General in Mississippi with regard to the power that office potentially holds?
Sure, and I think statutorily it speaks to the Attorney General's office being the chief legal counsel for the state of Mississippi in both criminal and civil matters. And so you take a very large lead role when it comes to criminal matters, working with DAs across the state. Obviously, in officer-involved shootings, they have a role in that, and a number of criminal matters. But also, on the other end, when the state gets sued, they're the chief legal counsel. When agencies get sued, they provide counsel for those agencies. And when the laws of the state of Mississippi get challenged, the Attorney General's office is tasked with defending those laws. And we've seen time and time again where, not having an Attorney General that is willing to enforce and try to defend the laws as written results in, I think, outcomes that aren't what the citizens of Mississippi expect and want. And I will say, under General Fitch and under the leadership of Governor Reeves, what we have seen is the right for the sanctity of life to be upheld. And the Dobbs decision was a critical turning point, not just in our country, but in our state, when it comes to protecting the rights of the unborn. When we look at our Second Amendment rights and the directions that those have gone, making sure that when those laws are challenged, when those conservative principled laws that are passed in our state and they get challenged, that they've got an Attorney General that's going to fight to uphold those. And you were talking about it earlier with the Cali decision, even though that wasn't a Mississippi case, that's a prime example of it's well past time that conservative states stand up and fight for the constitutional rights of their citizens and defend legislation that is passed that defends those principles and take it all the way to the Supreme Court if necessary. For far too long, we've seen certain liberal judges who try judicial activism from the bench, and those decisions are not challenged nearly enough and hard enough and fought for to overcome those types of decisions. And so you can be assured that as your next Attorney General, that's exactly what we'll do.
Sean Tindell, running for Attorney General in Mississippi. If you run for, let's just use governor, for example, then a gubernatorial candidate has got to lay out their platform. And different candidates have different ideas for what they think is most important for using Mississippi as an example, the state of Mississippi, and kind of what their priorities will be. I think if you look at the tenure of Attorney General Lynn Fitch, clearly one of her priorities has been on joint law enforcement efforts of which you've been a part, to slow down sex trafficking, to find child predators and put them in jail. Obviously, that is incredibly important. Is there a platform, and I don't know if I'm asking that the right way, or maybe are there priorities for you as you run for this office, if you are elected to this role, that will kind of be the order in which you pursue things?
And I've said it from the very beginning, as Attorney General, my number one priority is going to be maintaining public safety and continuing to fight to work together. And I think we've done that at the Department of Public Safety with our collaboration with state, federal, and local law enforcement agencies to make our streets safer. So we'll continue doing those things as Attorney General, and particularly in the avenues when it does come to drug trafficking, when it comes to human trafficking, and when it comes to anything that we can do, because the Attorney General's office is also responsible for handling the appeals in criminal cases from the district attorney's levels across the state. So making sure that when our local DAs get those convictions, that those convictions are upheld when they're appealed. And so from the front lines to the courthouse, we're going to be making sure that Mississippi is a safer place because we're locking up criminals. But then on the other side of that, and I think what's really important, that our Attorney General is also, even though it's not in the statute, is often referred to as the chief law enforcement officer for the state of Mississippi, and making sure that as the Attorney General, we are working with our sheriffs, that we're working with our police chiefs, and we're working with our district attorney's offices to do everything we can to make sure they have the tools they need to be successful, and public safety officials on the local level as well.
Sean Tyndall is my guest, currently the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. He is running for Attorney General. I try to be consistent in asking this question when we talk to a candidate for an office who has an existing job, and usually there's an existing job. You don't just have a job, you got a big job as Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. How do you balance being a candidate for a job that you are seeking while fulfilling your role as Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety in a way that is what people of the state of Mississippi expect you to do?
No, and I fully understand that and respect that, and we're coordinating with the governor on an exit strategy. I imagine by the end of the year, I will have be stepping down as commissioner, and we've made that known that we're giving him a little time to figure out who that next commissioner should be. And in the meantime, I'm going to try to balance both these things, and we're still a year out, so it's very early in this process. Last week took a week off and did things on the campaign trail. This week is going to be a little more of a normal week in the office, doing the things I typically do as commissioner. And so, trying to balance that in the meantime, but I imagine we'll have an announcement coming soon about my retirement from the Department of Public Safety and the role as commissioner.
Those PTO days get used a little bit differently now than maybe they would have previously. Sean Tyndall is my guest. He is the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety. He is a candidate for Attorney General in Mississippi. We'll continue the conversation on the other side of this break. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. More coming up with you right after this.
From the heart of Mississippi to the halls of Washington, D.C., this is Mornings with Richard Cross, your source for hard-hitting political insight and unfiltered truth. Now, here's more on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk Mississippi. Appreciate you being with us and appreciate some time from Sean Tyndall this morning, the Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety and also candidate for Attorney General. Announced that last week. I guess he lost the directions. I mean, this would have been a great place to tell the entire state that that's what you wanted. Just giving you a hard time. I do appreciate you coming in and visiting with us this morning. I would like, if we can, to shift from a potential future role to the job that you're serving in right now as commissioner. Obviously, the middle part of the summer, from the 4th of July really through the early part of August, the conversation across the state was dominated by the Nolan Wells case. As is normally the case, people move on with their lives, and there tends to be less that is said, whether it's online or publicly. I know that the coast hasn't moved on. There was some chatter last week online and from some people involved. Are there any updates that you can pass along from the department standpoint of where we are and what's going on in this case?
I think the DA down there is handling things at this point. I know her intent is to let the grand jury review the facts and circumstances. And I think with so much information floating around, that it really forced the sheriff's department that's leading that investigation to have to interview a lot of witnesses. Certainly there's been a lot of chatter on social media and online. And one of the things that I think is very tragic about obviously the death of Nolan Wells is very tragic. And anytime you see a young life taken like that, it's sad. But outside of that, through this process, the misinformation that has gone out about various individuals, friends of his, others, his mom, he himself, and the manipulation of documents that are put out online, and we addressed some of that because there was toxicology reports going around purported and made to look like it was his, and it was clearly a fake, one that had been taken in another case from years ago and manipulated to look like it was his. And so, I think we need to have a serious discussion going forward about, different crimes that can arise out of if you take official government documents and intentionally manipulate them and disseminate them online, what that looks like. And then obviously there's situations where I think there's going to be a lot of defamation lawsuits coming out of this, and there should be. You look at what's recently come down in Alabama with the Alabama basketball player and the New York Times and the way that he was portrayed. And so I think, it's not like it was 20 years ago when all you had was print media. Social media brings a totally different level of damages that can impact somebody, and the impact that it has on these young people and judges and others when they're being just totally lied about through social media.
Two things kind of as a follow-up to that. Will the public ever see a full version of the autopsy report and the toxicology report?
That, there was a case out of Meridian several years ago that resulted in some changes to our laws, particularly when it comes to disclosure of the full autopsy report and various aspects of that. And if you think about it, it is a medical document, and the family might have certain privacy rights and issues that they would like to be considered. So, a lot of times that'll come out during court proceedings, and if it does, that's a little bit different versus it just being made totally available to the public in every single case. So I will hold off judgment on whether or not that's totally released to the public, but I think the results will be made known.
What happens next?
Hopefully there's a moment, and we'll see what comes out of the grand jury report.
Let me interrupt just for a second. People hear grand jury, and I'm not sure that everybody understands that those are dates that are already on the calendar. When is the next grand jury seating where they should hear this case?
Well, grand juries are different in every county across the state. Your larger counties, like Harrison County, might have a grand jury convene once a week while the grand jury's in session. Your smaller counties, and we'll use like Stone County, for example, might have their grand jury convene once every 2 or 3 months. So it's different across the state. And the other thing with grand jury proceedings is those are generally not public.
Right.
They're supposed to be in secret. The members of the grand jury are not known because it is one where you want a fair review of all the evidence. And no public pressure be put on that particular grand jury because, again, it's just a probable cause as to whether or not an indictment should be issued out of that grand jury charging somebody with a crime.
Sean Tyndall, Commissioner of the Department of Public Safety, always good to catch up with you. Appreciate your time, and we'll talk soon.
Great. Look forward to it.
Wish you all the best.
Thank
Mornings with Richard Cross. Good conversation with the Commissioner this morning. We've got more coming up with you. 8 o'clock hour is on the way. Much to get to on this Monday morning, August 24th. Thanks for joining us. MRC presented by Community Bank.
Show was previously recorded.
Reaching across the state and across the aisle. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Why'd you come in here looking like that in your cowboy boots and your painted old jeans, all decked out like a cowgirl's dream? Why'd you come in here looking like that? Here comes my baby, dragging my heart.
Will, I was convinced that you would get to this one eventually. If we had gotten much deeper into the show, I was going to request, why'd you come in here looking like that? It's one of those that my daughters smiled about and sang along with from an early age. We are, throughout the show today, remembering Dolly Parton, who passed away yesterday at the age of 80. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. When it comes to money, trust isn't automatic, it's earned. That's why Community Bank does things the old-fashioned way. When you come to us, we take the time to listen to you and discuss any questions you have. Whether you're saving, spending, or planning ahead, you'll find bankers who know the community because they are part of it. Community Bank, banking designed with you in mind. Visit us in person or online at communitybank.net. Chris Brown joins me now. He is Public Service Commissioner for the Northern District of Mississippi. Always good to catch up with Chris. Chris, good morning to you.
Morning, Richard. How are you?
Doing well. I appreciate your time. I feel like for as long as I've been in this role, you and I have been talking about the Holly Springs Utility District. There is progress that has been made, countless hearings that have been had, frustration that still exists with residents in Holly Springs and Marshall County and even outside of Marshall County. And it feels like we got a pretty significant development in this story last week. As I understand it, there was an administrator that was appointed to HSUD, and you and the other members of the Public Service Commissioner, pretty strong disagreement with this appointment by Judge Larry Little. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. So as you well stated, we've been working on this for a while, about 3 years now. But a lot of it's just the slow wheels of progress. But Monday last, not this past Monday, but the Monday before, we had a hearing in front of Judge Little to ask him to appoint a receiver, much like a school receiver, a school in crisis and distress. The state appoints a receiver to come in and kind of take over it, get it triaged, get it cleaned up, and then decide what to do with it from there. So that's the kind of pattern that we were going after in Holly Springs. The hiccup we had was, we were looking for a professional receiver that could come in and analyze everything to make sure that customer complaints were being heard and phones were being answered, that forensic audits were being commissioned and executed to make sure how much money there is, where's the money going, is it being misappropriated, or is it really just a huge lack of revenue for that utility district? And have somebody independent, somebody that wasn't beholden to somebody that was leaning on them up in that district, in that area. So the Public Service Commission, we recommended a group that professionally does crisis management for businesses across the country. They have experience doing this, and it would have gotten that HSUD bifurcated, if you will, from the city, so it can start triaging and repairing itself and being able to provide not only reasonably adequate service, but, on a march towards a bright new day for Holly Springs, literally.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, that didn't happen. What happened, for the short term anyway, for now, is the judge appointed the current manager, which has been working for the city for 9+ months. And nothing against the man himself. He's just compromised, and so he's already got in his idea, in his mind, how it's supposed to run and how it's running now. And our contention was he's not going to change it, and he's got too many headwinds because he's kind of supposed to be working for he's supposed to work for the judge and the court system and not the city. But as we saw in this last storm, the city's still calling the shots. There's social media posts everywhere. Hey, I talked to the mayor. Thank you. I got the problem fixed within 5-10 minutes. Nothing against the mayor at this point, but that system is supposed to be in a receivership on its way to recovery, and it's much the same thing. Even today, there's best reports we've seen. There's still over 1,000 people out of power 4 days after the event.
Chris, I believe in transparency, and so I will say this publicly. I have known Judge Larry Little for a long time, like since I was a young kid growing up in Oxford. His son and I are roughly the same age. I have always known him to be fair as a judge and as a good man. I'll just put that out there. And so I feel like I should say that before I ask you, what do you believe is the disconnect between what the commission, who has been the Public Service Commission, that's been trying to clean up this mess for, as you said a moment ago, now 3 years. What do you think the disconnect is between your recommendation, what the commission believed was the right thing to do, and ultimately what Judge Little saw fit to do in terms of appointing this receiver?
Honestly, and I agree with you. I think Judge Little is a very good, honorable man. What I think happened was, and he stated in court that as late as Thursday before the meeting, there was only one name. We had no interveners at all. So there was one name that was presented to the judge for him to consider. So going into Monday, that's all I think in our mind, that's all he had. So he was going to appoint the PSC recommended receiver, which is what the statute says. The statute says that we would be the ones that would recommend. Of course, ultimate decisions in the judge's hands, and we respect that because that's the way the law is written. And but come Monday, there were two different parties that they did not file to intervene, that presented two alternate receivers. And I think that it went from having one to two alternates, and then the attorneys for the city did a very good job of of minimizing how bad the system is, and basically painted a picture that it doesn't need triage; it just needs a couple Band-Aids. And that's just not the facts. I was up there all weekend, and the vegetation's still everywhere. I mean, you can drive down I-22, the major artery, the interstate right between there, and there's vegetation on an HSUD pole. I mean, all the way up the pole, right next to the Love's Pilot Station, right on the 4-lane. So you don't have to go far to see, that very little progress has been made, and those people are still suffering. And I think the city's attorneys did a good job of spinning it like, oh, it's just everything's fine. Just give us a little more time, and it'll all be fixed.
Yeah.
And again, going into it, he had one choice, and the professional receiver was more expensive, and I think that weighed into his decision as well. But we are going to appeal the decision based on a lot of these things that weren't brought to light, or that were very misleading by the other side the Monday last.
Sometimes guessing what a judicial decision is going to look like is a fool's errand. Do you anticipate that in this appeal of the receiver that was put in place because of the concerns from the commission that there will be an overruling and a change in this?
I do, because again, I think Judge Little didn't have all the information in front of him, because again, all of us thought, even the judge's admission, that there's really only one choice, and then two more came in that were spun as all this system needs is a Band-Aid. We just need a couple more months, and it's all going to be sunshine, and everybody's got power, and we're going to be as good as everybody around us, and that's just not the case. And so, to your point, I think Judge Little wants to do the right thing, and we just want to present to him another set of facts and kind of this storm, put a spotlight on it, that the city itself and the receiver that was named, is my understanding, is still in Johnson City, Tennessee. He's not been on the ground at all. So the only people that are running it are the same people that always ran it, the city and the alderman. And, there's not, to my understanding, again, they only have three linemen that work on Holly Springs Utility District. It covers 13,000 customers, over 1,600 square miles, and covers or touches 5 counties, and even goes into Tennessee. You have 3 linemen working for them. And that, Richard, that's the problem, is that as long as the city's in control of it, it's been 2 decades, and there's $18 million being owed to TVA. Their system is not safe, so they don't have proper safety protocol. They don't have PPE. So how can you hire employees to work in a system for not any higher pay than a neighboring system that is more dangerous and not as safe and much more work? And then you have the headwinds, too, of neighboring utility systems that want to help, but it's a safety issue for their crews.
Chris, let's continue this conversation on the other side of the break. Chris Brown, Northern District Public Service Commissioner. Certainly have got more questions. We'll get to those coming up next.
And the Venable Globe.
And now, Mornings with Richard Cross. What's up?
Let's get the show going.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
You may think that I'm talking foolish. You've heard that I'm wild and I'm free.
Continuing with Chris Brown, Northern District Public Service Commissioner here in the state of Mississippi. This is Mornings with Richard Cross, brought to you by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. Chris, I want to revisit, and we had a request for this on the C Spire text line, revisit the numbers that you gave just a second ago. 13,000 customers, 1,600 square miles. Is that accurate?
Yes, five different counties, and even into Tennessee.
Wow. And there are only 3 line workers that are employed by the Holly Springs Utility District.
That's what's being reported to me, is that there's 3, and that's from the now named receiver himself, that there's 3, and one of them, I'm not bashing the linemen at all, but how can you cover that much area? Just three linemen, and you may be able to count 4, and Mr. Humphreys, but Mr. Humphreys is almost 90 or right at 90 years old, still working. And to his credit, we had a hearing, and to some of those linemen's credit, we had a hearing in Holly Springs at Russ College, and Mr. Humphreys at 80, right at knocking on 90's door, he gets up and says, "I apologize, we can't provide the service that we want. I'll continue to work harder to make this happen." Oh. And so it's reported to be the mayor of Ashland, Mayor Carroll, he says, it gets so bad. Sometimes he has Mr. Humphrey's cell phone number. He'll call him, and at 90 years old, he'll come out there in 80, 90-degree weather and reset a breaker on a pole. So,
okay, to your point, and I understand that this is comparing apples and oranges. I live in Oxford. Oxford is split between Northeast Power, which is the electric cooperative, and then the city of Oxford. Where we live, we are on Northeast Power. I've had 3 linemen show up at my house after a squirrel tripped the breaker at the pole.
Yes, sir. They have 3 total to cover the whole area. And here's the problem too, Richard, is the way it's set up. 70% of the connections, 70% of those customers are outside the city limits. 70%. They have no voice and say-so whatsoever in how that system's run. It's a city-owned municipal. There's only 3 in the state that operate like that, and that was way back when TVA was set up, and they've just been there a long time, and that's Holly Springs, New Albany, and Okolona. Those are 3 systems that have the majority of their service area outside the city limits. And in New Albany, it works great. Bill Maddox and his team do a fantastic job up there. But in Holly Springs, somewhere along the way, the train got off the tracks. The money wasn't reinvested in the system, and it got very, very decrepit, and it's in a crisis mode now. Even to the point that we've been after them for 2 years, hard and heavy, between us and TVA. We even started paying them $12,500 a day until they got it going. And to this day, they really haven't moved the ball down the field very much. They painted a couple buildings, but I was up there yesterday, and there's, again, still vegetation right off I-22.
Well, and that's something that you and I have discussed at length in the past. And I guess that's part of what I'm having trouble. When this investigation has been going for as long as it has been going, you said 3 years just a moment ago. Just seconds ago, you said, 2 years specifically in trying to address some of the issues. How is it that no progress has been made? Is there so much red tape that the Public Service Commission does not have the ability to say, here are the problems, here's the fix, go? Does that solution not exist?
It doesn't. By the law, we have no oversight. I know that's well, so it's set up, and anybody that's served by TVA, they are the regulatory authority. So TVA it regulates Holly Springs, not the PSC. So we can only step in and regulate and kind of go after these systems outside the TVA service area. So it's incumbent on TVA to kind of police that system.
Does TVA not want to see this fixed?
They do, and they've been helping us as well. But the problem we have is it's the only one in the country that the powers that be and the admin have not taken care of a potential tremendous asset, and the people suffer. So in a normal utility, this is the only one in the country we know that is like this, and it's the only one in the TVA Valley. I have 180 different co-ops similar to Holly Springs. This is the only one in the Tennessee Valley that has this kind of chronic problems. Because everybody would assume that if you're guaranteed a profit, which all utilities are guaranteed anywhere from 8 to 12% profit, that goes back into the system, or adds fiber, or whatever they want to do. Well, Holly Springs, for whatever reason, the administrations prior just have not seen fit to reinvest in the system or to treat it like the asset that it was. And now it's become a kind of a boat anchor and weighing down the city, because they're responsible for it. This $12,500 a day, when we move to collect that, it's not going to be on the county to pay it. It's going to be on the city residents to pay it. So what's that going to do? So obviously we're using that as a hammer to say, okay, you all have to get this right, or we are going to move to collect that money. Because you're not going to continue to misappropriate money and not.
So does that put Holly Springs as a city into the potential for bankruptcy?
It could. We're at $4 million now.
In penalties.
You know what? In penalties, they owe the Public Service Commission over $4 million in penalties. They owe TVA $18 million. After this storm, they're probably going to be another $4 or $5 million in the hole.
Would the PSC be willing to waive that fee if Holly Springs, and forgive me for using this phrase, got right, quote unquote?
Yes, and I think that is the kind of the hope is that, you know, when we levied the fine, we wanted to show them that we're serious. You cannot have status quo. The people up there deserve better, and again, they have no representation. The representatives up there, you know, I work with Representative Faulkner and Kincaid and Senator Whaley, and, you know, they want to see it fixed. People have different ideas on how to fix it, but everybody knows it cannot stay the way it is. And I just want the people of Holly Springs to know that status quo is not an option for us. We're pushing every lever that we have to try to enact change up there. And I do think, through our earlier points, Judge Little is fair and honorable man. I think when he sees kind of a clearer picture about what it means to leave the city's manager still in control, it makes it very hard for him to do anything different than what has already been happening over the last 9 months. You have to have an independent receiver in there to be able to make the decisions and to see things that everybody else hasn't up until this point.
You said something a second ago that I'm kind of hung up on. You said that these co-ops, and I may not be using the right phrase there, are guaranteed an 8 to 12% or 8 to 10% profit based on the way they operate, and then they, at least in theory, would take those profits and reinvest them into the system or to the operations. Who is guaranteeing this profit?
It's guaranteed in the rate base. So whatever you pay on your electricity bill, it's a series of data points that go into it. Maintenance of the infrastructure, fuel costs, everything that goes into supplying a kilowatt to your home is all in a formula. And so they add a certain amount of margin to allow these power companies to reinvest and to expand if they have an opportunity to, or even go into, a lot of municipals are partnering with broadband companies to deliver broadband to their citizens. So all that's cooked is put in the rate base, which spits out of how much per kilowatt hour at the end of the day. So there's not a utility in the state that I know of that is going backwards like is what's happening there.
All right, so the hole at this point, I mean, as you described it financially, is so incredibly deep. So as I hear you describing this, one, we've got this deep hole of debt, but then there's also this massive cost that is needed to actually fix the system. Is there a roadmap out of this, regardless of who the receiver is?
Yes. So right now, when the legislature commissioned a study 4 years ago, that's what kind of started the ball rolling. Senator Whaley came over to the
20
House.
seconds till the break.
Okay. So Senator Whaley started the studies to see how bad it was, and so that kind of started
From the Seabrook.
Southern nights. Have you ever felt a southern?
Mornings with Richard Cross, brought to you by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net, rooted in our community. Glad to welcome in my first guest this morning. He is the Central District Transportation Commissioner and also the chair of the commission with the Mississippi Department of Transportation, Commissioner Willie Simmons. Mr. Simmons, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. How are you doing this beautiful morning?
I am doing well. I appreciate your time. It is not every day that you get to roll out a new $400 million project. This is a big one, And, of course, we're talking about the I-55 and the I-20 rehab projects that are on the way. Give us a kind of a high-level overview of what's happening here.
Richard, we're referring to it as the Big Fix project. This is the I-20, I-55 project in Jackson, Hines County, and Lincoln County. And it is going to do great things for Metro Jackson. As you well know, we have approximately 110,000 or so vehicles traveling those corridors on a daily basis. And that gets to be very cumbersome when you have a lot of freight, as much freight as we have coming through, and then the local traffic and others going through. This project that we are undertaking is going to do great things. And I have to say thanks to our staff, led by Brad White, our CEO, as well as our contractors. This is a design build with a management component to it that allowed us to come in and get a contractor and an engineering firm along with a manager. And they were, they have been able to put this project together over the past year, and it's going to do great things. So we're excited about it, and also give thanks to our federal partners, U.S. Department of Transportation, as well as our federal delegation for the federal monies that we have, and our state leadership, including Governor Reeves, Lieutenant Governor Holdman, Speaker White, and our legislators for giving us capacity monies over the past few years, as well as maintenance money, and it has put us in a position where we can be progressive in moving forward in building capacity projects as well as maintenance.
What about the timeline on this one? I know in the press conference earlier this week, I guess it was, I thought it was a pretty audacious timeline when you said 2.5 years. I know 2.5 years can be a long time, but for a project of this scope and of this size, that seems like a pretty aggressive timeline. And I ask you that with the backdrop of, I don't know how many construction projects you've been part of lately, but good grief, I mean, over time and over budget seems to be the way of the world now, as opposed to, in time or under time and under budget. Well,
again, this management system that we put in place with bringing the engineers in and the contractors, what we call the design build approach. And the legislature did give us authority a couple of years ago to use this process, and we've seen it as a workable process where we're actually going to save money by being able to do it faster and get it done so that the cost inflation is not catching us and running the cost up. In addition to that, we're going to be able to save time. 2.5 years for this kind of a project. Normally, it would take us 10 plus more years to do this much work. And the inconvenience also that would come, because if we did it in phases, as you well know, Interstate 20 is running, and we're talking about a 32-mile stretch, 16 miles each way. So if we were to break that up into, say, 3 phases, or 4 phases, where we was doing approximately 4 miles at a time, that means that we would be shutting a portion of Interstate 20 down 4 different times. And it would take us over a 10-plus year period in order to get that done. This approach is going to allow us to come in this year, September 2026, and begin the process of moving the project forward. And by doing that, and having the process that we are utilizing, is going to allow us to do it in 2.5 years. So within a 3-year period, the citizen will have been able to get a project completed of this magnitude. The state will save money, and we'll be able to utilize these corridors to move traffic through Jackson, which is going to impact the entire state when you think about the way the corridors are laid out, Interstate 55 and Interstate 20. Running the entire area of Mississippi, north and south and east and west, with freight coming out of Tennessee, Louisiana, Arkansas, Alabama, the whole works, coming through the Jackson metro area. And by doing what we're going to do and putting up new signage with the technology, as well as widening putting more shoulders on the interstate system. It's going to make it safer and make for a better ride. So we are excited about the fact that we are able to do it in this manner. And this is really a good system that we are utilizing. We think that's going to be beneficial to the state and the citizens.
Willie Simmons is chair of the commission at MDOT. He's the Central District Transportation Commissioner. Willie, when I think about a project like this, I think about traffic delays, right? How much is it going to slow down? And I think specifically, I don't know if you drove this stretch, but if you're going to New Orleans or Baton Rouge, you go south on 55 and then you head toward Louisiana. You're dealing with 10 and you're 12. And it felt like forever construction was going on through there and traffic got backed up. And then finally one day it was done and you're like, okay, this was all worth it. How much do you have to weigh that when you're looking at a project like this? Like, this is going to be an inconvenience for Mississippians, but it's going to be worth it. We just got to grit our teeth and get through it.
We have to take those things into consideration, and we recognize that individuals want to get to where they want to go as fast as possible and don't like being slowed down. But we do encourage our citizens and individuals who are driving through our work zone to please be careful and watch out for the workers. We have had over 50 employees killed in the work zone over the years, and it's uncalled for. Individuals just need to pay attention and understand and be patient. This project is going to be over a 2.5-year period, but in our planning, which is what we have done, is we know that we have to close lanes and we have to shut the system down in order to work on these 32 bridges and these 32 miles and these 36 bridges that we have. We know that we have to shut the lanes down. So what we've done is we'll work with the contractors and the engineers and say we know we have to do that. So we're going to have a 45-day shutdown in 2027 during the summer months. But we are planning it so that we looked at activities that would take place. For instance, the fair. We know that there are a lot of folks that come into Jackson for the state fair. So we're going to plan our closure around the state fair and do it during the summer so that it will be open during the time that the fair is taking place. So we're very considerate and understanding of the business community as well as the city. Then in 2028, we will come back and we will close the other lane going the opposite direction, going east, so that we can do that. But we will do that also in the summer so that it will not impact. So what you're saying is exactly right. Now, what this project is going to do, it's going to address Interstate 55, starting at High Street and going down to McDowell Road, starting on Interstate 20. We will actually start at around the Rankin County line and go all the way over to Wiggins Road. It's called Pearson Road on the east side at the Rankin County area, and Wiggins Road on the west side. Wiggins, for those citizens who don't know where Wiggins is just west of Highway 18 and Robinson Road on Interstate 20 going toward Vicksburg.
Okay.
So we are very, very, very concerned about the safety aspect of it, but also we are concerned about the citizens. Much of the alternate route will take place on 220 and Highway 80. We can't shift traffic onto the city, but we do know that the local folks are going to figure out a way and figure out how to move around in the city and on the city streets to make it work. But our alternative route will primarily be Highway 80 and 220.
Well, it certainly is a big project with long-term effects. Is there? Well, we're up against a break. Have you got time to hang with me for just a couple of more minutes?
Sure.
Commissioner Willie Simmons is my guest. He is the Central District Transportation Commissioner and is the chair of the MDOT Commission as well. Commission working in conjunction with MDOT on this massive road project in the Jackson metro area, I-20 and I-55. It's a $400 million project. We'll talk about a little bit more about this on the other side of the break. Willie Simmons, my guest. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Back with you right after this.
And they named him rock and roll.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
C-Spire text line is the way for you to join the conversation. 601-879-4395. The One Plan from C-Spire is here. Fiber home internet and wireless, only $99 a month for new and current customers. One plan, one price, one experience. Zero compromise. Get started now at cspire.com/oneplan. C-Spire, customer inspired. Commissioner Willie Simmons is my guest. He is the Central District Transportation Commissioner for the state of Mississippi and chair of the board at the commission. Mr. Commissioner, we get a message on the C-Spire text line from Larry. He said design build is good. That usually does save money. Curious, though, on public projects, how are the contractor and the engineer selected? And I guess I would add to his question, on state contracts through the years, we've heard the lowest bid wins. Sometimes universities or entities are able to use lowest and best as the criteria, where it's not just an automatic that the cheapest bid is the bid. What was the process the commission used in terms of selecting the contractor and the engineer on this?
We did what we call the CMGC. That's the construction management project concept, with a design bid build, where we identify a contractor and an engineering firm. In this case, we dealt with, because we're dealing with the 36 bridges. So we brought in, for this part, Neil Schaefer, an engineering firm, Michael Baker, but also the joint venture aspect of it with the contractors was Yakes and Keith, who deals with bridges. Looking at that group, the staff brought them in and hired them, going through the process of selecting which of those companies would do the design build. And although they was doing the design build, they didn't necessarily have to be the chosen one at the end of the day. But because of the planning, the work, and the collaboration that went on during the past year, we looked at them and felt that they were the one who was putting the design together, and they would fit the bill for making this project work. So that's the process that we went through, and that's where design build is kind of work. And we can't say how much we appreciate the work of Yakes and Key, as well as our engineers, Neil Schaefer and Michael Baker, for the work that they have done. And having the management concept in place allowed us to have an engineering firm outside of the Department of Transportation working closer with them and kind of having our back, being our eyes and ears to make sure that all the I's were dotted and all the T's were crossed, and that this was a project that was doable, and that this contractor, engineering firm, was working for us, made sure that those things that we were concerned with, such as what you talked about earlier, the traffic flow, the shutdown, and scheduling around times when it would not interfere with some activities that would be going on in the community, as well as scheduling it to make sure that we can get it done as fast as possible,
right?
But doing it correctly so that we wouldn't lose money in the process.
Willie, I got to be honest with you. I did not know that was an option on some state contracts. I mean, you've heard about the bid process, and you've honestly heard about nightmare stories that go along with that. You accept a low bid on the front end because State rules demand that that's what you do, and then you get stuck with a group that's not really. This strikes me as something that makes a lot of sense in so much, and I know you can't do that with all contracts, but you and your fellow commissioners are elected, and so it's like the people of Mississippi are saying, hey, we are trusting you to lead this particular organization, and then you put some safeguards in, especially with the engineering firm, to kind of watch over you and make sure that this strikes me as a better process than what maybe traditionally the bid process has been.
It's a better process in that the time-saving aspect of it, as well as the money-saving. And just know, Richard, that we could not have done this if the legislation is not granted us permission to do that with the legislation that was passed a couple of years ago when they started giving us capacity money. So they realized that we needed to have everything on the table, so to speak, that we could look at in the way in which we could be managed and make sure that we was in compliance and that we was being open with what we was doing and being accountable. And this system gives us that compliance as well as the accountability that we need to give the legislature and the citizen the assurances that we're doing it in a way that's going to be beneficial to everybody. Because once again, 2.5 years, if you think about inflation rate, what we getting this project done for now, and $410 million is a lot of money, no question about it. But if we did this project and stretched it out over a 4 to 15-year period, it would cost us much more to do.
Might be $1 billion project if you did that.
No question. Yeah. What I want to say is that everybody win-win. This is a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, Mr. Commissioner, we're out of time. I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining me, and hope we can check in as we see some progress on this project over the next few years. Thank you so much.
A SuperTalk Mississippi Media production.